Every entrepreneur has a moment or a series of moments that leads them to become who they are meant to be. I call these moments intuitive turning points. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I am the host of Intuitive Turning Points. Come join us for stories of successful entrepreneurs who have gone through the journey. These entrepreneurs have accomplished so many things in their lives. I will have best-selling authors, TEDx speakers, people who've created successful businesses as an entrepreneur. It doesn't happen overnight. And as I always say, entrepreneurship is a personal development journey. And it takes time to develop yourself into the person you're meant to be, to help other people become who they're meant to be. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show. Today's guest on Intuitive Turning Points is Tricia Nelson. Tricia Nelson lost 50 pounds by identifying and healing the underlying causes of her emotional eating. Tricia has spent over 30 years researching the hidden causes of the addictive personality. Tricia is an emotional eating expert and author of the #1 best-selling book, Heal Your Hunger: 7 Simple Steps to End Emotional Eating Now. She also certifies health coaches so that they can get better results, referrals, and revenue by helping their clients overcome emotional eating. Tricia is the host of the popular podcast, The Heal Your Hunger Show, and is a highly regarded speaker. Tricia has been featured on NBC, CBS, KTLA, Fox, and Discovery Health. So let's all welcome Tricia Nelson to the show. Welcome to the show, Tricia Nelson.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. This is awesome.
I'm so excited to have you here. We kind of became entrepreneurs together, at least here in LA.
Yes, we did.
Grew up together and watched each other for the last 16 years here in LA. So I wanted to kind of put that out before we start our discussion. But as you know, the show is really about that moment that you knew you had to do what you're doing now, or series of moments, because sometimes it's a bunch of things led up to this decision. And so can you tell listeners about that moment for you and what happened?
Yes, I would love to. And I will say it was a series. I was just telling a friend yesterday that I trademarked Heal Your Hunger in 2009, 12 years ago. So I knew it was an important brand, and I trademarked it for that reason. And then I had fits and starts of starting, a Heal Your Hunger business and brand. And because I worked with my then husband, who had also been my mentor, so there was some really kind of funky dynamics going on there. So, and he was the teacher, he was the guru, and I was the assistant, apprentice. So anytime I did do something, I was trying to combine it with I was trying to find a place for myself in what we were doing. And even though my place was sort of to promote him, that wasn't satisfying to me. And so I had a gift to teach and articulate these principles and to write and to speak. And so I had this thing bubbling up in me after many years of working with him and supporting his work. And it was hard. There were hard dynamics there. And so I would try to add, so I did a Heal Your Hunger retreat. I helped, my favorite thing in the world to do is help people with emotional eating, whereas he and I had worked, as you know, with more of an umbrella of addictions in general. Right. But I really wanted to do the vertical of emotional eating. That's where my heart was. Yeah. And I would try to get him to do it because that's what first of all, I thought it was a smart, vertical, and it was a smart niche, but he didn't have as much of a marketing mind. He didn't really want a niche. And so he'd always want to keep it general. And so I thought, well, I'll do this, I'll find my way within this, umbrella. And so I did these Heal Your Hunger retreats, and I tried to bring him into that. But after a couple of those, and I love doing them, there was
Mhm.
amazing retreats. People came in from all over, and we stayed in this big house and had a chef, and it was amazing.
Yay.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I do that, and I'd be totally lit up. And then he would sort of grumble and say, I don't want to be doing this. And I didn't have at the time the wherewithal or really the sense of myself enough to say, well, I like this and I'm going to figure out a way to keep doing it. I was sort of like, oh, he doesn't like it. And, I can't just go do my own thing, and so I shut it down.
That's so interesting. And this is actually a perfect example of, I think a lot of people go through this where, you're in a partnership and it's part of it is compromise and all of that, but you had already claimed with the universe. You're like, 2009, I'm trademarking this. This is my thing. This is where I'm going. So you already knew it was on your heart to do it. And
yes.
And then of course that is just, when you do the retreats, that's just the universe giving you all of the affirmation that this is the right way to go. And knowing you and having watched you, I watched you go through that whole experience. And, so it's really, and I think this is a really key point, is that it has to be what's in your heart, because your intuition is your guidance system that's only for you.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't mean, that you run over other people. Obviously you love him, you care about him. You want to make sure that this is done in a way that is satisfying and helpful for both parties. So what happened next?
So basically I just shut it down. I didn't do any more retreats, and I tried to crawl back into my space, my self-appointed space, and co-appointed space.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, when I shut it down, it was really bad for me emotionally. Okay. So I had this inspiration. I was stretching, I was flying, and then I shut it down and I got sick. I didn't get physically sick, but emotionally I got depressed.
Yeah.
And I felt very confused and I didn't have a strong enough voice to really stand for what I needed and wanted. And that wasn't his fault. That was me just not having the inner strength, and so just being willing to shut it down. And so I did that for a while, and I muddled around trying to, help him do my same role with him and his business and his gift.
Yeah.
But, when you have this inspiration, it doesn't go away. You can sublimate it and you can have the fallout from that, the depression or anxiety or physical sickness, whatever. It'll, when you have the strong sense, a surge inside of you, and you tamp it down, it's going to cause problems.
Always. And that's actually a key reason for depression that a lot of people don't talk about. And I'm really glad you brought it up, because you're suppressing what's in your heart to do. You're suppressing your intuitive voice. These things connect you to the greater, however you look at that.
Yeah.
And when you suppress that, you will be depressed. So honestly, I hope that people watching this right now are thinking, oh, that's why I'm so depressed,
Yeah.
Step away from the sugar, step away from the alcohol, step away from all the things that you're using to try to keep your inspiration down, and let it come out.
Yes. So, so I kept it down, and I muddled around until I literally couldn't do my other job anymore. Like, I literally couldn't work with him. I couldn't promote him. I couldn't do anything. I even hired somebody to do it for us. So I took myself out of the picture, and I hired somebody to do what I had done because I couldn't do it. We hired her. That cost a lot of money, and then we couldn't afford it anymore. So he's like, I don't want to work with her anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, but don't depend on me, because I can't do it. Yeah. So that's what happened, is we couldn't afford that help anymore. And then I'm like, I can't do, I physically couldn't do it. I couldn't do it any longer because it wasn't my path anymore. And so I basically quit. And then I think we talked about this. I went and I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't, it wasn't like, oh, then I'll go do this other thing that I was so inspired by before. That didn't even cross my mind. I just thought I'm in, one door closes, the other opens, but first you have to be in the hallway for a little while.
Yes, yes. It's
so
the
I was
gap,
in
the gap between who you think you are and who you know you are. You have to walk that gap, and there are things to process in that, right?
Yeah. And so I didn't know what to do. And I thought, I'm not helping anybody. And I went and I did kind of something that had been on my bucket list for a long time. I don't like the word bucket list. It sounds morbid to me,
Yes.
but anyway, it had been on my heart to do art. And I had been an art major in college, and I hadn't done a stitch of art, and so I started taking painting classes at a local college. And for a year, I just followed my heart to do art, and I did that.
I love that, because art is such an expression of your intuitive nature. It's an expression of the soul. So what a perfect way to step into the powerful place you're in today.
Yeah, which of course at the time I didn't know I was just stating in that way. So I just was like, I don't know what to do, but this is something I like to do. So let me try this. So I did that for a while, and it was wonderful. I had an amazing teacher, and I was very creative. And I also did some volunteer service work for people with addictions. And what that helped me do, that service work, is it helped me to realize that I do have gifts separate from my husband's, that I can be helpful to people, and so during that time, and then I also came to realize art was not my calling. Yes. So even though I loved it, I'm like, this is not what God has me here to do ultimately.
Yeah.
And so I realized after a year, well, first of all, I invested in this little thing that I did with 6 other people, other entrepreneurs, where we sort of helped each other take the next step in our businesses. And even though I didn't really have a business at the time, I did this. I invested to do this, and it was like $3,000, and it was 2 days. And at the time, I'm still kind of in my codependent quandary with my husband. Yeah. But all these people were like, but I'd written a book called Heal Your Hunger, but it was collecting dust. Like I didn't know it. I hadn't owned that brand yet. I was still trying to like bring my husband into it, but he didn't really want to be in it. So I was in this place, but having those other people reflect back to me, they were all like, duh. Like, they were like, duh, like, get the book out, like publish the damn book, put your name on it, like just let them go, just in terms of business, just do what's in your heart. So I sort of needed, I couldn't come to that on my own. I just didn't have the inner strength.
This is really important for anybody who's looking at becoming an entrepreneur, who's in process, especially if you're just starting. If you don't have a group of mastermind groups, a mentorship, someone to help you get to the next level, like invest in that now.
Yes, it's true. It's absolutely true.
We can't do this alone. And to have that feedback from other people who look at us objectively and say, you wrote a book, to you, it's like, I just wrote a book, it's something I did because I had to, I love to, but to have their eyes on you and pointing out the greatness that you've got. Yeah.
It was crazy. It was really crazy. And I basically was like, oh, like I could see it in their eyes. Like it was so clear to them. They weren't in a quandary. I was in a quandary. And one person's like, do you think maybe you're codependent with your husband? Yeah, kind of. So it was the mirror I needed. Like they could see me so clearly. Yes. And so it was all I needed. I needed permission. I needed outside permission to just push through that inner resistance that I had, the fear that I had. And from that moment on, I started a podcast. I finished the book. I launched the book on Amazon as an Amazon best-selling book, and I started my online program. And that was in a period of about 6 months that I did all those steps. And because I was
so fast,
because
it was like,
yes, like I had permission, and then I claimed it. I just claimed it. And I'm like, I'm not working with him anymore. And I know art's not my thing. And I know helping emotional eaters is my thing. Like I just know it. And so I just claimed it. I stepped into it, and I never looked back. And that was 4 years ago. And I haven't looked back, and it's been awesome. And my business has grown and it's been very successful. And the bottom line is, Meg, I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. And I know it's because I'm on my dime. I'm creative. Like, I needed that creative outlet. I have to be creative or else I'll get depressed. It's like a mental health thing for me to just create, to do videos, to write, to, help others. The whole thing just allows me to be myself, but I'm doing it like, I'm helping the people I'm meant to serve, and that's really, like, I'm very much on my dime. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm very clear. This is exactly what God has me here to do. Yeah. It took me 50 years to figure it out, but that's okay.
Yes, it is.
Better late than never. And, at first I'm like, oh God, if only I'd started, helping emotional eaters back when I started my brand, Heal Your Hunger, I'd be ahead of everybody. Like, I was into it before it became a thing. Like, I was so ahead of the curve. Yeah. So for about the first year, I kind of beat myself up, and I thought, damn, you had it. Like, why did you equivocate? Like, why did you just sort of muck around and not go for it? But it was my path. Like, I couldn't.
Exactly. And that's a really important thing to note, because I always say that entrepreneurship is a personal development journey. Yes. And you have to do things at your own pace. You will go through so many things. I mean, you still go through them. It's not something that ever stops,
For sure.
So what is it that you offer for people today? What are the different facets of things that people could do with you?
Yeah. So my flagship program is called 10 Weeks to Freedom from Emotional Eating. It's a 90-day program. I give 2 extra weeks. So it's basically 12 weeks to freedom from emotional eating. It's online. It's for anybody who struggles with food and weight and is tired of crazy diets and impossible exercise programs. I was 50 pounds overweight. Mm-hmm. This is why this is so personal for me, is I know what it's like to struggle and to not fit in your jeans and to, binge and all these things I did for so long. So, and it's based on my own personal path of freedom. Mm-hmm. And that I've taught in conjunction with my husband for many years, but I've taught it for over 30 years. So, so that's my program. And it's super powerful, life-changing for people, because it's not diet focused. It's very much, weight loss from the inside out.
Yes. Because that's where it happens, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I certify health coaches to be emotional eating coaches. So that's really special, is that I teach them how to, basically use my system to help their clients, so their clients can get over the finish line as well.
And that's one of the things I love about your work, is it is a system, and it's very clear. It's this step, this step, this step. So it's very structured, so that people feel, I think structure helps a person feel held during an experience, especially when you're going through emotional changes and really looking at yourself and expanding yourself. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, especially because with emotional eating, so much of the advice is nebulous, like intuitive eating or, mindful eating, moderation. Like, all these words are not bad concepts, but when you've been, really out of control of the food, they don't cut it. Like, you need more clear-cut steps, and that's what I offer people.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, so get the book, Heal Your Hunger. How do people find you?
Well, the best way is on my website, healyourhunger.com, and that's HEAL, healyourhunger.com. And you can access the book, my podcast, a free quiz, which if you wonder if you're an emotional eater, you can take the free quiz and find out. Uh-huh. And then also, if somebody's interested in my emotional eating coach training, they can learn about that there. And also on Instagram, I'm Tricia Nelson _ and you can access my stuff there. And also I have a Facebook group for people who are emotional eaters. And that's called The Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating.
Yes. I like that you used a sauce, being a chef, and,
right?
We're talking about food here, right? Because it's going to be on your mind no matter what, right? Yep. All day long. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing your story and being so personal with us.
Yeah.
I know your story is going to help a lot of people who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or going through the experience of it, because it is an experience, as I like to
Oh,
often say, the
yeah.
fun never stops. If you're in a body, the fun
Yeah.
never stops. There's always
It's
something.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think I did maybe subconsciously start my business as a way to grow and find new places that I could grow. And so it hasn't disappointed. I have
Yes.
had lots of opportunity for growth, because it challenges you and you have to stretch. You have to move
Yeah.
through parts that are uncomfortable. There's no, starting a business is not a walk in the park. It will challenge you in every possible way. But then as you move through those challenges, and definitely don't do it alone, but as
Yes.
you move through those challenges, you'll just get better and you'll just be a better version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautifully put and exactly how it is. So yes. So thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your wisdom and your experience and just who you are in the world and how you're helping people to really end emotional eating. You've done it yourself. You're just are gorgeous. You
Thank
are
you.
so healthy.
Thank you.
I've never seen you gain a pound in the 16,
Oh,
17 years I've known you.
praise God.
So,
Yeah.
and it's not
Thank
really
you.
about that. It's really about who you are on the
Yeah.
inside. It's
That's a side effect. It's a good one. And it's an important one, but it's a side effect.
who you're being is what matters most. So I want to thank listeners. Thank you so much for listening to this. And there will be plenty more shows for you to learn about following your intuitive heart and who you are and becoming who you are in the world and living that out to help other people through your own story, through what your authentic gift and your contribution to the world is. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching Intuitive Turning Points. I want you to go ahead and like the video and please subscribe to my channel and then ring the bell to get notifications of future episodes so that you can get the latest in Intuitive Turning Points, stories of successful entrepreneurs. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. Get your dose of inspiration right here on Intuitive Turning Points. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful for you.